Welcome to my beginning watercolor tip number 1 video, the white and light of transparent watercolor. When working with opaque mediums, such as acrylic and oils, your whitest whites come directly out of the tube from white paint. With watercolor, that's not an option. Your whitest whites are coming from the reflection of light off the white paper. So one could say it that when you're working with opaque mediums, you're working with white. And when you're working with transparent watercolor, you're working with light. This is a transparent watercolor which explores the full range of values. It goes from your whitest whites to your darkest darks, but this could only be achieved by planning ahead to protect the very white areas of the paper. When working on most surfaces, once you've applied the paint, it's very hard to get back to pure white. You can scrub the paper and lift off paint, but normally what you'll end up is with a light value but not a pure white. So I have a demonstration here to illustrate the difference between light and pure white of the paper. So I'm going to apply a wash here, starting with a very dark wash, and then I'm going to add water and thin this down as I go down the page, and we'll go from dark to middle value to light value. And I've put a piece of tape there on the paper in the middle, or kind of to the left, which is going to protect an area of the paper. So that area will remain pure white paper and will give full reflection of light. So as I continue to apply this wash and thin it out and make it lighter, what you're actually seeing is more reflection of light. The more pigment there is that's applied to the paper, the less reflection you're going to get and the darker the color is going to be. But as I come down towards the bottom of the page, this wash is getting much thinner, and you can start to see more and more light being reflected back off the paper. Again, when working with an opaque medium, this would be accomplished by adding white to another color such as a dark blue to lighten it, to reach the tone you want. Watercolor dries much lighter than when you apply it, and I've decided I still didn't achieve the darkest value that I really want to get in this, so I'm coming back with a second wash to get a darker blue at the top. So I'm repeating the process I did the first layer, and now I've been adding water, and you can see that it's getting lighter as it goes down because you're seeing greater reflection of light. And this is what it looks like when it's dried. So before I started to apply this wash, I masked off an area on the left side to protect the paper. Now what I'm going to do is I've masked off on the right and left an area open, and I'm going to take a damp sponge and I'm going to lift off paint where I've applied this wash. So I'll dip the sponge in water, wipe it, then rinse it out again and wipe it, dry it with a Kleenex. This process is a little bit tough on the paper, and it does lift some of the paper off because I'm scrubbing pretty hard here. I'm trying to get this to the white, original white of the paper. So I've scrubbed this pretty good now. You can see that paper is starting to roll off a little bit. And it looks like we're a pretty good white. So what we're going to do is we're going to dry this, and then we're going to lift all this tape off and then compare the two, the area that I just used the sponge on and the area that I masked originally. So as I remove this masking tape, what's going to be revealed is the area where I lifted off with a sponge. And what initially it appears to be is a very white, but in actuality what you're seeing is a light value. If you look at the top, you have contrast against the dark blue, but when you get towards the bottom, that starts to disappear because really what you have is a light value, and you have contrast at the top but very little at the bottom. Now, as I remove this other piece of tape, now you see your whitest white. That is a pure white. It has contrast at the top and at the bottom because it's pure white. Paint has never touched that area of the paper. Understanding the role light plays in transparent watercolor is very important. It's an important concept to understand if you're going to be successful with transparent watercolor. Your whitest white comes from 100% reflection of light off your paper. Any wash you apply on top of the surface will make the reflection something less than 100%. And that's not a bad thing. That's how you get your value scales. It's just important that you understand the overall concept. It will make your painting experience much more enjoyable and more successful. So that's my beginning tip, the white and light of watercolor. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.